Well, good morning, everyone. I am Don Zavis, one of the co-founders of the Tucson Paranormal Society. Have a wonderfully exciting show with one of Arizona's own for you today, Lori Wade. So, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for committing to Inside Tucson Paranormal. I know that anything that comes in with aerial phenomenon, which is now what we're referring to, is really, really a hot topic. And so, thank you so much. Grab your coffee. Grab a paper and pencil. You're probably going to want to write some things down. And I want to introduce you to Lori Wade. So, Lori, how are you this fine day?
Oh, just fine. Thank you for having me.
No, it's absolutely no. It's our pleasure. So, I always do such a poor job of introducing people in their background. Why don't you share with our listeners kind of how you got in the world of paranormal, what you do, and then we'll jump right into it.
Well, from the time I was little, I had a lot of paranormal um, experiences. I'm not going to get into any of that. But in about 2008, I was living in Prescott Valley, and I started with a paranormal group there. Um, and after that, around 2010, I joined MUFON in Phoenix and became an investigator for them. So at the time, right now, I'm inactive just because I'm now living in the White Mountains, and it's just too difficult to get to Phoenix for the meetings. So
Sure. And for those that don't understand MUFON, MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. So they are probably I guess I safely could say this, Lori, they're probably the largest clearinghouse of UFO reporting and activity, probably in the entire United States. Is that a fair statement?
oh, definitely, and there's quite rigorous training. So um, you know, to to become an investigator, there's a huge test you have to take. You can't just
So
walk in and
what?
go, "I want to be an investigator."
Sure. So just kind of, maybe just kind of in general, what would that test look like? Because I think that there's a misnomer that's in the world that an investigation is basically just go out talk to people, but there's much more than that. So what would what would the test look like certainly, and what would a field investigation look like?
Well, it's very nuts and bolts. Okay, you're going to be learning scientifically what to look for in the sky. You know, when you're investigating, whether it's paranormal or UFOs, you you're trying to rule things out. Okay, um, so you have to have a general knowledge of what's in the sky. I used um, tools like Stellarium. That's a really good one. You can get that app on your phone. It'll show you what's in the sky at that moment, but it'll also show you what was in the sky 2 weeks ago, or even in the future, what's going to be in the sky. You can see satellites, um, so and planets, and um, so that really helped me. Um, and I use aviation apps so I can see what airplanes are in the area. Um, but it just shows you how to use maps and tools. Um, like a trifield meter is really important, and
Mhm.
other investigative tools.
Right. But I think the interesting thing that I always found from it was that MUFON, or really any investigator, looks for the natural reason first. They're going to look in maybe a misidentified aircraft, or maybe something that's explainable before automatically deferring that this is alien, right? And that's the
Oh,
sense that I get from everything. Is like, let's look for a logical explanation before we automatically assume that it's something else.
right. That's the ruling out, and that's that's definitely what you're trying to do. Um, but what became difficult was they would give you a case, and you're calling somebody um, on the other side of the state, you know, and you've got to go by what their report is. Um, and if you don't know the area, it kind of made it difficult. And I'm a
Sure.
real I'm a boots on the ground kind of investigator. So,
Right.
and with paranormal investigation, the phenomena is still usually going on. When you get
Hmm.
to a UAP investigation, the phenomena already happened. So that made it
Sure.
difficult too.
Right. You're investigating something that doesn't reappear consistently to be able to identify it. So now, obviously, your time was here in certainly in the Arizona area, and I don't think it's lost on any of our listeners that the southern part of the United States has been a hotbed of UFO activity going back, well into the Native American world, where you're looking for, petroglyphs, or you're, thinking of Roswell, or really any UAP or UFO activity has really been a hotbed in the southern southwestern part of the United States.
Mhm.
Any thoughts why that might be?
Well, you have a lot of aerospace companies, and you have military there, um, and you know, my ex-husband, he worked at Area 51. So
Really?
one of yeah, yeah. So one of the things I
I would
learned
imagine
was
I was going to say I would imagine that's not something he can talk a lot about.
no, but I mean, one thing I can tell you was, and because it's been so long, he had been working on the Patriot missile there. You know,
Hmm.
just
Right.
just you know, um, and did you ever see anything alien? He was like, no.
Right.
So I think it's really,
That's it. Yeah,
it's
I
about,
think it's interesting to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lori.
it's about national security, and
Right.
I
And
saw
I think
Cata.
a lot of. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm so excited. I feel like so. Go ahead, clear your thoughts, and I'll respond.
Okay, anyway, Cata Mate, she just wrote an article for you guys that was so spot on, talking about how a lot of um, the phenomena we may see in the sky is really our own technology, and they use the notion of UFOs. If the public wants to think it's a UFO, they'd rather have you believe it's a UFO, you know, than to nose around into something that could, um, destroy our national defense.
Sure. And I think a lot of, and it's interesting if you look at Area 51 and you look at the things that, they've said, whether it's stealth technology, or some of our, incredible capacities, our aviation capacity. They came out and said, we did it here. It's kind of like where America goes when they want to keep things that are secret. And I think that you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I think a lot of the advent back in the 50s of a lot of the UFO scare was really intentionally created by the military because they were testing things they didn't want anybody to know about. And you're absolutely right. Why, say that we don't know what it is, it's a UFO. It's far more likely to be accepted than to say, yes, this is advanced, technology. Interestingly enough, though, there were aspects in recent whistleblowers that said that Area 51 was almost like, and I don't know if your husband had this experience, but that it was like almost like two bases. You had the Air Force base that did Air Force kind of stuff, and then you had like this little corner over here, which like nobody talked about, nobody went to, was kind of like a
Right.
little enclave into itself. And it was interesting when you look at again UFO activity throughout the Southwest, whether it is related to military installations. It's interesting
Hmm.
because I had a conversation, an interview with someone. We were talking about the Phoenix Lights, and that's kind of generally accepted as the largest mass sighting on Earth.
Hmm.
Tens of thousands of people saw it. What
Hmm.
most don't know is that actually the craft spotted in the Phoenix Lights actually followed its way south and ended up coming over Davis Moffett, where it stayed for a few moments and then continued on its way south. So there's
Right.
always been this connection between UAP activity and the military. And my thought is that, they're just kind of keeping an eye on us.
Yeah.
It's like if your kids are playing in a room and they're too quiet, it's like, wait a second, they're too quiet. They're up to something. I need to peek in and take a look. But obviously, you've got such a long history. Our listeners love actual experiences or actual recounts of stories. And while you were doing this for MUFON, did you ever come across something that, despite your best effort to finding a logical explanation, you couldn't come up with one?
No, I was basically able to solve them all, to tell you the truth. But um, I was living in Prescott Valley at the time, and the most interesting thing that I investigated, the or cases I investigated, was out of White River. So
Interesting. And that's a very strong Native American community, is it not?
yeah, I have a lot to say about what's
Hmm.
going on the reservations. I'll tell you.
Hmm.
Um, so investigating that one, there was a couple of reports that night into MUFON. So we had a triangulation, people reporting the same thing.
Hmm.
Some kind of craft that was scaring people.
Hmm.
They were seeing, some kind of craft with, it was like four orbs of light, and it was long, and and people were, really scared. Well,
Well, that would be,
investigating
that'd
that
be
one,
terribly disconcerting.
yeah,
Sure, that would be frightening to see something that, you think shouldn't exist. Interestingly enough, though, because of all the recent disclosures from the government that,
mhm,
had evidence, video, radar evidence about things that we just can't do. And I mean, they were very open. Now, could they be lying to us? Of course. Maybe they've had that technology for years, and they're just, not telling us the truth, so they don't have to legitimately disclose to the world this incredible capacity. But I do believe, there's the disclosures that are coming out now. I like to believe that they're truthful, because a lot of these things go against just physics, not even technology that we
right,
possess. It goes against physics. There's certain
right,
things that we just can't do, and
right.
no one on earth has been able to come up with it in any capacity. So in that situation, how do you respond? Do you come back and just kind of give it an inconclusive? You've got all these people that aren't connected in this at all, that see something, amazing in the
Right,
sky, that
right.
that they don't know what it is. We can't tell them what it is. And, do you just kind of come up with inconclusive? We just don't know.
Well, first of all, I want to clarify that people who are experiencers and abductees, I believe them. Okay, and what I'm talking about today is just nuts and bolts. Okay, and I think those people are experiencing something real, and it's totally different from what I'm talking about today.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I
Right.
believe
It,
them.
it, it, yeah, I agree. The thing that we always find at the Tucson Paranormal Society is when somebody out of the blue contacts us and says they've had an experience, and it's interesting because they all start the same way. I'm not crazy.
Right. Yeah,
Or
yeah,
they weren't looking for this. They were driving home from work. This was never on their radar. They never expected
right.
it. They were at some place they worked at for 20 years and happened to be working late and saw something. And again, to me, those are the ones that are the real believable, because they're not
Yeah,
selling anything. They're not,
yeah,
they're just looking for validation that I experienced something amazing that I don't understand, and I would really like to try to understand. And that whole, you look at the Travis Waltons, who was probably the most famous abductee in history, was right here from Arizona,
yeah,
and now you've gotten all of these, whether through hypnosis or past life regression, or people that have lost time or saw something and then you know kind of woke up 4 hours later 100 miles away and have no idea how they got there.
yeah.
There's got to be something to that. Now, does MUFON ever tap into abductee part, or is it primarily just, again, that nuts and bolts investigation?
Well, they have a special team that deals with that kind of report. I can't remember what it's called. It's Star Team or something like that, and they
Hmm.
would deal with the high strangeness reports. Um,
All right.
what I found out about White River doing an investigation was that you know what a MOA is, a military operating area.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's sections of it all over Arizona, all over, you know, and anyways, White River is at the very north end of an MOA. It's called Jackal Low, LO. And the
Hmm.
LO stands for lights out. So
Hmm.
that's a specially designated area where they're doing experimentation, they're doing
Hmm.
training, and it's right over these people's homes.
Really?
Yep.
Is there something now? Is there something unique about the geography? Because, like many people have said, like Sedona, Sedona is nationally and internationally known as a unique area for whatever reason. The rocks, the crystals, the geography, the geology, the ley line, you pick. But do you think it's because of just the geography? There's something unique about that space, and people just built houses there.
And it's federal land. Even though
Okay.
they're supposed to be autonomous on the reservation,
Hmm.
it's also
Hmm.
federal land. And I
Right.
think they're just doing whatever they want over it.
Yeah, well, I think
And
history has shown us they
yeah,
haven't been very kind with the Native American community to
right,
start with,
right.
so don't be
And
surprised. But again, I was going to say,
they're
when you
not the
look at the
only
Native American community, oh no,
yeah,
absolutely not. But if you look at the Native American community, there's been indigenous people here in the Tucson and surrounding areas for 10,000 years, and
yeah.
and these people have, again, the petroglyphs and the stories and the
Mhm.
things that have been passed down. And then now you'll take a tribe that's 100 miles away that they've never had an interaction with, don't know anything about, and these people have similar petroglyphs and similar stories, and it's, just, it almost seems so unlikely that it's just coincidence. It just can't be. And then, but then you take people on the other side of the earth that have had similar circumstances and have similar drawings and have similar stories, and then you start adding these all up, and it's like, wait a second, how could this just be random? I believe that we've been visited for, tens of thousands of years, and I go one step further and think that these visitors have actually had an influence on the human race. A lot of these giant leaps in technology kind of happened out of the blue, and
Mhm.
and there wasn't that, connective tissue up to that. You have any thoughts on that?
Um, well, I certainly agree with a lot of that, but in the case of White River, like I said, they're in a MOA. So craft they could have seen that night could have been something connected to that. And I work with a lot of residents of White River. So, and they know what I do, and they'll tell me stories. I hear the stories of Bigfoot. I hear the stories about there's some kind of sounds like an animorph type thing, um, where it's a person, but it's a person with hooves. Some think it's a pigman. Some think it's a horseman. That's going around. You hear stories about there's um, an old, like a ancient, ancient one that's walking around, and if you're walking around at night, and you run into him, he is scary, and he'll go after you. Um,
Hmm.
all kind of stories there, and
Sure.
I believe them, and the story. I mean, there's so many great stories there, but I think that
Hmm.
night, as a MUFON investigator, I believe what they saw um, had something to do with it being an MOA. And these people
Hmm.
didn't know that. It's not right,
Sure.
you know? This
Well,
is going
well,
on
you
over
look at
their
the
heads.
absolutely when you look at the skinwalker legends, and
Oh, sure.
all of the cryptids and thunderbirds and everything has been connected into the Southwest and the Native American community that has gone on for thousands and thousands of years. And then again, you scratch your head and go, you know, people don't perpetuate a hoax for 10, 15, 20 generations. There's got to be
Oh,
some
no.
seed
No.
of legitimacy that's in there. And again, these people were very, very connected with the land. If they
Yeah.
understood the
Ab
uniqueness of the geography and mountains and crystals and rocks and the interaction of the animals and potentially like elemental spirits that again we're connected with the earth. And to me that's why that the it's so much of this seems interconnected, that there's some intersections because there are some people that look at a Bigfoot like creature or a dogman like creature and believe that's a multidimensional creature that kind of moves in and out of portal access at different locations. And then
Right.
I've had other people that we had a wonderful speaker at one of our events that was a star child that she
Mhm.
believes, and really she does have a compelling story that she was put into a body,
Mhm.
at birth, and has had this connection elsewhere. So there's so much intersection that's out there in the world, and again, a lot of times when you think about it, everybody starts looking up. And a lot of these
Yeah.
things, even the Bigfoot, it's nobody's looking down, everybody's looking up and saying, somehow the answer is going to be connected in the heavens because that's such a critical area. And whether you look at the pyramids or giant construction projects that were done thousands of years ago by people that basically had sticks, and yet they
Yeah.
created these incredible architectural undertakings. Is it possible? I guess it is. Scientists say, well, they could, people who really didn't have anything could make it and do it like this. I just don't believe that. I've never believed that.
Mhm.
To me, it seems like the world is that much bigger and that much more amazing. So, Laura, one of the things that I always say in all of our sessions, we always run out of time before I ever run out of questions, and I haven't even gotten through half of the ones that I like, or half of the ones that I had. But let me ask you, what do you think what do you think the future looks like for people like us that are fascinated with the stars and believe there's something more out in the world.
Well, I'm definitely one of you. So, I'm one of those freaks too, so these are my
Sure,
peeps right
right there
here.
with you. Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Um, However, I don't want people to, let their let 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 how do I put this? Um, okay, so let me tell you about a case I did last year, okay? Here in the White Mountains. And
Hmm.
I have a acquaintance, and he lives over by Lyman Lake. And he started sending me these videos, and he's going, "Lori, you've got to see these videos. There's these UFOs that come out every night." And I was looking at the videos, and sure enough, it looked crazy. You'd see lights, one would come, really bright, and another one would come like just appear next to it, and then zoom off in another direction, and I'd never seen anything like it. So after a week of this, finally got a day off, and I went out there and I talked to him, and he goes, "It starts at 9 o'clock every night, it's like clockwork." I'm like, okay. And I brought two other MUFON investigators with me, and he was telling me, about how he believed they were his UFO friends, they're extraterrestrials, they communicate with him, and he saw one in his house, and like, oh wow, this is wow, what a case. So 9 o'clock, and sure enough, the lights start happening. I'm seeing them with my own eyes. So I go, let's go across the way. There was a mesa across the highway from us. I go, can we get up there? He goes, yeah, I know a road. So we all rushed up there so we could get a better look. And sure enough, these lights, you got a better look of these orbs. One gets really bright and one shoots off, and it just But then I started thinking, well, extraterrestrials don't have um, a, a schedule. That sounds like testing to me. And honestly,
Right.
they're moving like drones. Okay. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I got to be a skeptic. I got to be a skeptic, right?
Sure,
So
absolutely.
I took a compass heading of the direction they were coming from. And then the next day, all I did was I went on to Google Maps. Okay. And I started from the point we were. And I thought, well, I'm just going to see if there's anything it could be. Now, I know in Arizona, it's against the law to fly your drones at night.
Right.
So well, maybe, these guys are out here, uh, some yahoos out here just playing around. I don't know,
Hmm.
because nobody's, there's no one around.
Sure.
It's pretty sparse. So I take my
Mhm.
little Google Maps and I go in a perfectly straight line very slowly, looking over the land. Is there anything? Is there, someone's home, something? All of a sudden, I run into something called Aaron Avis Bronze Cabin, and it has a little pine tree next to it, which would indicate a park or a historical site.
Yeah.
And I love history. So I'm like, oh, I never heard of that
Hmm.
before. That's interesting,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So I go, I wonder where it is exactly. I zoom out and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was on a property called Nautilus Aerospace.
Oh, okay.
What?
Yep. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. It was right there.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah.
Yep.
So tried to look them up online. Okay. And every time I put in Nautilus Aerospace, you guys can do this. You can
Hmm.
look this up. It's in Concho. Go on your Google
Hmm.
Maps. You look it up. Right. It's really there.
Right.
Um, it goes to a website called Nautilus.co. So Nautilus is spelled N-A-T, no, I'm sorry, N-A-U,
AUT. Yeah. Right. Right.
right? Nautilus, like the Nautilus, right?
Right.
This
Right.
is called Nautilus, but it's
Mm.
Netilus.co.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
Anyways, I go to their website and they are developing UAVs. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
You
what they're
bet. Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I
So
think I think the idea is that there's usually, a lot of them have a really good explanation. But again, I think you're right. Some have other ones. So, but as we close off today's show, and again, thank you so much. You are an absolute wellspring of knowledge, and maybe we can have you back for a future show. So, Lori, do you make yourself available to people that have questions or speaking engagements, or do you interact with the public where you'd want to share a name or phone number or email address, anything like that with our listeners?
Uh, sure. Anyone that has any questions, I'm very happy to answer. That's one of the reasons I became a MUFON investigator. I want to
Hmm.
educate the public.
Sure.
And if you want to text me, I work, so it's better to text
Right.
me. Um,
Sure.
my
Text is
number
better.
is my number is 928-940-2311. Um,
Right.
my email address, um, it's becoming Salome 63 at Yahoo. And do you want me to
You're going
spell
to have
that
to
for
spell
you?
that. Yeah.
I know
So
it's a long one.
becoming.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I had it since the beginning of the internet. So it's just,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
Um, becoming, like the word becoming, and then
Okay.
SALOME 63 at Yahoo.
At yahoo.com. And by the way, if anybody needs to get a hold of you, they can certainly reach out to us at the Tucson Paranormal Society. We'll make sure we get you guys connected up. So,
Okay.
Lori, thank you so much. This was incredibly interesting. Since this is our own backyard here, things that happen in Arizona, are constantly of interest to ourselves and our listeners. And you've been an absolute joy. Hopefully, you'll come back and join us again in the future. Thank you so, so much. And for those that are
Okay.
listening, thank you so much. Because without you guys listening, Inside Tucson Paranormal doesn't exist. So want to give a shout out to you guys as well. And, you know, go out and start looking at the sky. You never know what you'll see. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lori. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.